Fletcher Tabatala.
I'd first like to address a comment from Dr. Reti, who I respect as a fellow member on the Defence and Trade Select Committee. He talked about this bill as a relationship builder, and it's the first time that argument has been raised in relation to this bill. What I'd like to point out is that Dr. Reti and I actually had dinner with the South Korean government contingency when they came to New Zealand. And I told them very openly, sir, that New Zealand First could not support the trade deal. And I told them because it was of the ISDS. And I said, actually, it was a bad trade deal and they'd gotten the better of the bargain. Sir, they nodded and they acknowledged and they agreed. They simply... And the point I'm making, sir, is you can disagree with friends and you can carry on and build relationships. This opposition does not compromise our relationship with the rest of the world. But what I really want to point out to this House, especially after the attack from Mr Bennett and some of the rhetoric from the National Party, is that New Zealand First, sir, is a party that in its founding document, in its policies and its manifesto, that our principles have not changed for 22 years. We absolutely endorse trade. We say the export of New Zealand products and goods overseas is an absolute essential necessity to our small regional economy. It is absolutely essential. But New Zealand First opposes this trade agreement and the alteration to the legislation in support of it for two main reasons. The two main reasons is that the first one is the ISDS that I have mentioned. The second is that it is actually a bad trade deal. New Zealand First agrees completely with the Minister when he spoke about New Zealanders being fine exporters, about how important the work of our primary industry in the main is in terms of the growth of this country. And what he didn't acknowledge and what he should acknowledge is that most of that, sir, comes from our regions. So New Zealand First adamantly debates and contests that this government has a policy that results in essentially absolute apathy with regard, well, actually to the whole economy, but in specifics to our regions. The Northland by-election result, the resulting uproar from other regions from around New Zealand saying you're not taking notice, you're not taking us seriously, and you have no policy, created a real uproar, and the government took notice. But as I've said already today, what we're seeing from this government is a beautifully written song sheet with wonderful lyrics, but their actions belie their true intent, and in this case, there is no substance, and we are not seeing anything meaningful from this government. So, the ISDS, or the investor state provision, which we are told by our trade negotiators, was actually the only part of the Koreans' counter-argument to the trade agreement. We have such an open economy already. We already have pretty much open borders for the rest of the world. So what could the Koreans ask of us? Well, sir, the only thing that they asked of us was for the investor state dispute settlement tribunal process to be included in this trade agreement. And this is perhaps the main reason that New Zealand First cannot support this legislation. And it's imperative that I remind the House why. And I say to them, sir, what price? Sovereignty. We're told about the tangible benefits of trade, of tangible goods. But sir, I say it again, what price? Sovereignty. There's no calculations done on that. There are no estimates done on the compromise that we give away the undermining of this nation's right to rule our own nation. New Zealand First abhors the ISD provision because it enables a corporate, an international foreign corporate, to sue a government not in a court, sir, but in a deliberately named tribunal. It is not a court, it is a tribunal. And that court is closed, usually, at the request of the international corporate, so we don't know what has gone on in the proceedings. It costs millions of dollars whether we win or lose in those proceedings. It is run by 3 corporate lawyers, sir, no judge, 3 corporate lawyers. And because their results are in secret, we don't know how they came to the decision that they have made. And what's really important here for the other side of the House to note is because it's a tribunal, not a court, there is no right of appeal. New Zealand, if it was sued under ISDS by a foreign corporate, cannot look at the text of the proceedings and then cannot go back and contest it and ask, by what right did you make this decision? Under what terms did you consider the actual provisions in our trade agreement? Because I'll point out for the members opposite, there are far too many examples now, sir, of trade agreements with ISDS provisions in them where it has been proven that the ISDS tribunal have ignored the very provisions of the trade agreement and have decided in favour of a corporate, despite robust and comprehensive clauses in these agreements.
I regret the time. I regret the member speech is interrupted and the debate is interrupted and is set down for resumption next sitting day. The House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Tuesday, the 15th of September 2015.